Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody today for their attention, and I'd like to thank QQI, Dawn and Ahead for the opportunity to speak about my favourite subject, my students. As Dara said, my name is Tara Cronin and I work for Kerry ETB. A group of 8 young traveller women, all of whom were early school leavers, enrolled in their very first FET course with Kerry College. Their moms never did any kind of formal training, neither did their dads. Some of them had children, and they felt very, very frightened and scared when they first stepped through the door. If I asked you there now to have a look at this slide and think, you know, can you swim? And let's assume you've done a few swimming lessons, but you haven't done much. And by the way, I'm going to evaluate you while you go and hop into that water. Would you feel comfortable? And that's the theme that I was presented with these 8 women. But they were not just 8 women, these are 8 families. This is this legacy experience. Training and education, and most significantly, assessment, was connected and identified with a fearful place. Joanna Tai spoke earlier about assessment emotions, and I really felt that. And I really felt that that was our challenge. But it's also something that could be a challenge that could be quite exciting. These were post-primary and second-year school leavers. Assessment to me was insurmountable. One of them had kind of, in her own way, expressed to me. And the beautiful thing about this group is that community mindset was central, and that was their strength. There was an internal cultural circle built around these young women, and it was quite a protective space. And it was my job to think, okay, right, there's these beautiful young women, they're talented, they have all of these skill set. How can I access that in an inclusive way, but how can I assess them in a way that's appropriate? The best part of the school experience for us is that we went to school together. Isn't that lovely? And just kind of, it captures that belonging that Declan Traynor spoke about this morning. That was evident in the room. They belonged to each other, but we needed to tap into that space. Kerry ETB would often say, be the best that you can be. And I really believe that we tapped into that with those learners. Sure, I was terrified. I'll admit it. I had this toolbox. I'm teaching nearly 25 years. I'm an instructor and I'm proud to be within a FET space. I'm equally as proud to be with Kerry ETB. But this was a challenge. This was the first step into these waters for me. And I wanted to ensure that that progress was kind of met with some confidence. So there I went home to my son. And there he was that evening, and I was pondering. He said, Mom, you're very distracted. As he had his back turned to me, he was doing a coding assessment. And I was, Riles, what are you doing? Oh, it's this test that I have. It's an assessment. And, you know, I said, how are you finding it? Are you panicking? Are you okay? If then else, Mom. I said, what is he talking about? And he still now, by the way, had his back turned to me. If then else. He said, it's the law. I said, okay, to explain this law to me. He said, it's the law of code. And my beautiful sensory neurodivergent kid, with his back to me, explained that if this does not work, there's always an else, Mom. And if your systems are not working in your centre, at whatever level you're at, there's always an else. We just have to look for it. So the profile of these learners was essential for me to kind of peel things back. Beauty therapy. The way that we've always done this, it's been 50% practical, show me what you can do, explain what you can do, and 50% theory, multiple choice. You either know it or you don't. And I had that bias with me that unless they could do that, they can't do what I know that they can do. So the profile was really important to me because I could identify what I could utilise from this group. So I got on to the most amazing organisation, the international governing body, ITEC. Kerry ETB engaged with ITEC, and we looked at their massive beauty therapy diploma. And we kind of looked at that for a while, and through engagement with that international governing body that's recognised globally, we compartmentalised that massive diploma, that huge ocean of material, into a smaller, concise module. And that was approved by ITEC, which was wonderful. And I needed to think about what do I want those ladies to do and their families to do, not only to engage with FET, but I want them to be able to, the product should be something that they could bring to industry, this skill that's going to make them proud. And it needed to be viable, it needed to have fair and consistent assessment practice built into it. So for the first time internationally, Kerry ETB was granted access to a micro-credential in beauty therapy. And we were given the opportunity to facilitate these learners. So we looked at what was being offered, and that ocean was a little bit too much, and we converted that down into the swimming pool. So we were allowing people to experience things at a rate and pace that suited them. So what did I want them to do? I basically wanted these learners to be able to produce a facial that they could bring to industry, a beautiful, bespoke treatment, but in addition to this, to provide a service to somebody, and they had never done that. Imagine leaving school at 16, thinking, it wasn't for me, and the minute you hear the word test, you go into a blind panic. I wanted to change that. I wanted to shift that perception of FET. Now, central to this for me was UDL. I have the UDL hat on all the time. Tara, UDL, O'Halloran and Cronin. And I think this is very, very pertinent. It's critically important in providing fair and equal opportunities for learning for students disadvantaged by disabilities, language, socioeconomic background, and others. That's everybody who might otherwise be marginalised in the one-size-fits-all classroom. So the learner voice, we sat down together. Oh, they were brilliant. Fabulous banter. Everybody was obsessed with their mobile phones and everybody loved each other, but it was quite insular. So we spent some time together. If I was to ask you how to do that, what would you do? Would you show me, or would you talk about it, or, what way? So we spent a bit of time, and I think we spoke about that earlier. Time is essential, isn't it? We're all so busy. Maybe we could consider building that time in before we start any course. Sitting down and analysing, what is this group? What are they about, and how can I best serve them? So I gave them agency. I gave them knowledge, skill and competencies. We looked at that. How can you show me? And it was authentic assessment. That's so important, that I needed to make sure, the quality and the standards that Kerry ETB always provide to our learners, that was met. So programme assessment strategies were focused on the progression of the group through the learning outcomes of the skill areas. So what did it look like? This is the most exciting thing to talk about, because if I asked Mary Burke to put down her phone again, she wouldn't put it down, but if I asked her to look up some products and use the app that she was so used to using, even though her literacy would have been a challenge for her, she was well able. She could tell me every single dermalogical product that was in existence and a number of ingredients. So I harnessed what they knew, and I used technology that particular group were used to using on a daily basis. So the main focus really was on harnessing this group's strength. So what did? We did observation and feedback. Sure, they could buy and sell the information, this group. They were brilliant. They were used to talking about things and beauty and fashion and everything, but now they were talking about, what is your skin type? What does it look like? They were well able then to put this beautiful experience of strong communicators into a practice where they were becoming live beauty therapists. We built on a sense of community then, which was probably one of the most brilliant things in this course. We brought in their mums, we brought in their grannies, and what we did was that entire legacy, that generational, misconception, and probably rightly so, that school was not for us. It was now replaced with pride, accessibility, and I remember one mother saying she'll be great now when she gets a job. Professional discussion was very important, so rather than getting somebody to write down, as we spoke about earlier, a big long essay, which was never going to happen with this group. That big long essay, that was spoken to me. They told me what they were using, why they were using it, and why it benefited their mom or their granny, and their mom then were thinking, oh, I'd love to do that myself. Images of products. So literacy was a huge issue. So we used imagery. So what are you using? So the whole idea, can they do a facial? are they able to produce and are they able to explain the treatment to their client? So basically Snapchat, phones, the internet, that was their area of expertise for research. So they were able to pop the phone out in the evening, and then they were able to regurgitate way more information than I had expected to me the following day and to their clients, meeting the international standards and guidelines. An industry environment, I don't know if you've ever been to Kerry, but we have the most amazing beauty therapy unit there. We have a beautiful steam room and a sauna, and we have bespoke learning environments, and these learners with their uniforms and their hair up and the standards required for international industry qualifications were met within this beautiful bespoke learning environment. We made an industry space for these girls. Remembering now they've never worked before or probably had not planned to work. Skin types. PowerPoint was brilliant. They loved the PowerPoint because they could scroll. Practical classes. I started slipping in more and more technical terminologies as we went along. And by the end of it, it was just phenomenal. These girls that came in, all business, in casual attire, were suited and booted, and at the end, I felt they were able to show me the knowledge, skills, and competencies within that learning environment. So instead of giving them a 9-page client consultation form, we agreed to shortlist it to this, and it still covered my learning outcomes. You can see it's visual, it's short, it's succinct, and this. I love this. I left school in second year. She would have been about 14. And it wasn't a positive experience, as I was the only traveller in the whole school besides my sisters. I really enjoyed the beauty course as it was very interesting, and I learned lots of new things about the skin and skincare, which was very helpful. I think it would be a brilliant idea to have more courses like this, especially for travellers, as we didn't receive a proper education in school. And I think that's from fear, and I think that space doesn't really exist now with FET and with you and with higher education and with our new lens. It should not exist. And these courses would benefit us, and we could get qualifications and even a job. So now we had calmer waters, and everybody was ready to move out of the pool and maybe consider heading off to FET, which is a beautiful part of Kerry again. The entire group successfully completed the iTech Skincare IUBT 408 and achieved this award as the first women in their families to gain a further education and training skills and an international qualification. Dr. Joanna Tai earlier said supporting inclusion is a worthy goal. That was a takeaway. I would definitely agree. And I would really like you to reflect on this space in respect of the learners that come in through your door. I think the solution is to map in time before any course starts to get to know the needs of your learners, because it isn't one size fits all. Thank you.
That was brilliant, Tara. Thank you. I think, I suppose Tara really brings home that notion of assessment for inclusion, maybe as opposed to inclusive assessment, that, you know, using the process of assessment as part of our process for inclusion as well. And I think really hammers home the kind of concept of education as a vocation, and it's lovely to see that passion and that energy.